All right, great. So, so we're recording. This is the November 2020 Rivertowns Chamber of Commerce meeting. Glad to have you all here. I'm sure there's still going to be people popping in as we go. If anyone doesn't know me, I'm Elizabeth Nell. You may have seen me here before, but I am the newly named executive director of the chamber. So I'll be helping coordinate a lot of these meetings and trying to work on creating more opportunities to get some involvement with the chamber and with our local businesses. So I'm excited to be here with you all. And we also tonight will have our guest speaker, Mayor Nancy Kabulian from Ardsley, who's joined us and is in her Veterans Day finery. I'm excited about that. So before we get to Nancy, you know, I thought while we're still a small group, instead of doing like a breakout room, why don't we take 5 minutes and just you know, if you want to say hi and introduce yourselves, please go ahead. And then I'll also remind everyone to go ahead and paste anything in the chat that you want to share about you or your business or promote, and I'll share the chat with everyone after the meeting as well. But anyone want to volunteer to say hi and introduce yourself and say what's going on with your business quickly?
I'll start.
Go for it.
Can you guys hear me? I'm not muted yet. So I'm Amy Jo Neal. I live in Dobbs Ferry. I'm actually I grew up here, and I've had my own business for about going on 11 years as a financial organizer and household manager. So I work in Westchester and all over the city.
Great. Well, we're glad to have you here. Thanks for coming. Anyone else want to say hello at the moment before we jump into some of the community news? Oh, did someone?
I'll introduce myself for those people who don't know me.
Sure.
I'm Sherry Rosen-Asher, and I am the community liaison for George Latimer, the Westchester County Executive, to all the chambers of commerce. So I have the good fortune to deal with business owners and groups all over the county, which gives me a good perspective on what's unique and what's similar between all the groups. If you don't know me or know who I am, I'll put my email in the chat, and I urge you to sign up for the Westchester Catalyst newsletter, which is the Office of Economic Development. I could talk more about that later. I also was just recently appointed to the Human Rights Committee for Dobbs Ferry with Nitin Gupta. And so one of the things that we talked about was bringing the business community in on human rights and diversity issues that are affecting specifically Dobbs Ferry, but also all the villages. So.
Wonderful. Thanks, Sherry. And just FYI for everyone, I just put like the quick outline of tonight's agenda in the chat box if you're curious what we're going to be talking about. But there will be plenty of time for sharing as well. So anyone else want to say a quick word?
I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Maria Kikuchi. I'm one of the owners of Calcutta Wrap and Roll in Ardsley. This year we're celebrating our 10th anniversary in Ardsley. And we've always been very happy to be part of the community. And
oh, did you freeze? Is it just me?
Yeah. Business has been proceeding as usual. We still have our long time Ardsley Dobbs fans who have have come to see us, and we've been very happy. And that's it. We're very happy to be part of the community.
Wonderful. Happy to have you here, and I love
Thank
your
you.
food.
Thanks.
Great. Anyone else?
Sure. I'll introduce myself. Hi, everybody. Hi, I'm Dina Fleischman, and I am the liaison for Hastings-on-Hudson for the Chamber of Commerce, and I'm a local business owner. I import gourmet foods from Greece, and that's my business. Nice to be here.
Wonderful. Good to have you here. Anyone else? Abe, you want to say a couple
Yeah,
words?
can you hear me? I'm not sure if my mic is working.
Yes, you are.
Okay. Just saying a quick hello. I live in Ardsley. I've been here 10 years. I spend my time all over the Rivertowns, work in real estate, both in a sales capacity, and then we have a whole renovation construction side as well at the Orange, New York. And I love hearing about the food that just came up. So I want to hear more in a breakout room or some other time later. Love
Yep.
Calcutta Wrap and Roll.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, great. I'm so glad you could be here. Yeah, if you stick around till after Nancy speaks and after we go over some of the community news, if anyone wants to stick around for some breakout rooms or to chat more, please do. We should probably have time. We're gonna, before we hand it over to Mayor Kabulian, why don't we just quickly chat about the chamber board nominations to give everyone a reminder. Nick, do you want to say a couple words about that? Do you want?
Yeah, does this work if I hold this down?
Yep.
So we are officially following protocol for the chamber for probably the first time in 5 years. The board actually should be, the board election should be every year in December, and nominations really should open up in October. And just given the people that we've had on the board, and given the people that have been in different roles over the years with people leaving and people filling them, we haven't really had the number of I guess not recipients, but the number of applicants to be able to really follow this process. So what we're doing this year, I will be moving on as the president emeritus as of January 1. Michelle will be stepping into the role of the president. And I don't want to spoil everything else, but there's some other folks that will be moving up that are in different board positions now. So we do have some openings for different representatives for the villages. We have some openings for positions like treasurer and whatnot. Ideally, what we want to do is we want to have the people that come on the board as a representative for the village, have them do that for a year, possibly 2, and then move into another role. Another role, whether it's secretary, treasurer, president, vice president, president emeritus. So just, I don't know if everyone here knows, I've been in this role for just about 3 years now. Same thing with Michelle. She's been in her role for 3 years. Maggie, who was the president before I was, she was in her role for 3 years. So realistically, 3 years is a long time to be in one specific role. What we're doing with the board is we want people to have a commitment of, at least 2 to 3 years where you might come on in one position, then move to the next, but just not end up in that same role for 3 years. Unless you want to be, that's great. But definitely in this role and in the VP role, it definitely becomes burnout mode. So if you know anybody, if you want to nominate somebody, please do that. You can email us, info@Rivertowns Chamber. If you want to nominate yourself, that's fine too. We promote that as well. So we're really looking forward to bringing on some more folks in the next year.
Awesome. Thanks, Nick. And I did just paste into the chat. You may have gotten our email newsletter a week or 2 ago that had this, and we'll be reiterating it again, but I did paste in the chat the links to both the nomination form for the chamber board and committee roles, as well as a document that describes each of the roles and what it entails in general. So please participate if you're into it, or if you know anyone is, share the word. And yeah, look forward to hearing more from everyone on that.
Just another point with that too, Elizabeth. We've done a lot in the course of the past couple of years to really set in motion the structure that we have now. When Michelle and I kind of took the reins of this thing in, what was that, 2018? Realistically, it was the president and the VP were doing everything. So we filled the roles. I was a treasurer. I came in and taken over Christie's spot when she took on the town government position. But really what we did was we made sure we put the right people in those roles. So we have Laura Plunkett in as our secretary. We had Dennis O'Brien filling a dual role as treasurer and vice president of Celtic, Dennis from Celtic Corner. Unfortunately, Celtic Corner is closing or has closed because of the pandemic. So he's not going to be continuing his role. I was going somewhere with this. I totally lost my train of thought. But what we would like to do is, we'd like to obviously see more people like, say like Dina, who's been on the board for 2 years, or like Nitin, who's been on the board for 2 years, come in and move up in different roles. We started to put the plan in motion to bring in an executive director about a year, and it was February, about a year and a half ago. Actually, again, almost 2 years now. I can't believe how time flies. And when the pandemic hit, I just want to say Elizabeth reached out to me and she volunteered and said, hey, look, I want to help you guys out. I can do the social media. I can help out with the publications, everything. So for us, it was like a no-brainer to ask her to come on board. So thank you, Elizabeth, very much for filling that role. But realistically now, whereas Michelle and I had done everything voluntarily ourselves, and then the other board members came on and voluntarily they were doing everything, we now have someone as a point person, Elizabeth, who can structure it for everybody. So even though it might be a 2 to 3 year time commitment, the physical time commitment won't be as long as what it's been, for us for the past 3 years. So I really encourage everybody to get involved. It's been a blast for me. I've had a lot of fun. You definitely learn a lot about the ins and outs of the different villages and how they operate and the businesses on a day-to-day. Working with the different mayors is a lot of fun, and the village administrator. So again, I encourage you to get involved as much as you can.
Nick, a question. I know that the nominations, the deadline is December 1st, but I'm not sure, maybe I missed it. When do the elections actually occur? At the end of the year or beginning of next year?
Oh, no. So the elections are at the end of the year. Realistically, if somebody wants to run against somebody else, there's an election for it. But if you're nominated or it's an open position and you want it, the board votes on it, and that's really the election. So
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Dina. Thanks, Nick. That's wonderful. So I'd love to turn it over to Mayor Kabulian to give us an update on what's going on with Ardsley small businesses and any news she wants to share that might be of interest. And then after Nancy speaks, we may have County Executive Latimer here for a few minutes, or Sherry will give some updates, and then we'll give some other more local community updates as well after that. So I'll hand it over to you, Mayor.
Thank you, Elizabeth, and thank you to the Chamber for inviting me and having me attend your meeting tonight. I'm sorry that we're not all in person so that we could all raise our wine glasses together, but I do appreciate the opportunity to be here. Nick, if you think it was a long 3 years as president of the Chamber, let me tell you, this is my 3rd year as mayor. And boy, it has been one long year. It seems like 3 years all slammed into one. It seems like almost everything that could have happened is happening. And I can't even imagine the things that are still going to go on happening. But I want to thank the businesses of Ardsley that are here on the call tonight. I applaud them and all the other businesses for really working through this pandemic and being able to keep their businesses going. Calcola Rock and Roll is one of my favorite places. I go there, but to be honest, you don't recognize me because I send my husband in. So to pick it up and bring it home. Ardsley has challenges, I think, that the other villages don't have. We have a major road that runs through our downtown. So we don't have the roadways that you see in Hastings or Dobbs Ferry, where we could have set aside places for restaurants to open and have outside eating, along 9A. We have Adamant Square, and then we have the upper malls, and the upper malls have independent owners. And as much as we tried to work with the owners to separate parts of the parking lots there, that became difficult issues that they didn't want to deal with. So Ardsley has unique challenges, I think. And I've always tried to think about how we can, be more involved with our merchants. I will honestly say that as something that I have not done sufficiently enough. And I think the pandemic really hurt our ability to do that early on in the pandemic. We did list the businesses that were open, and we tried to keep notifying the residents of what restaurants were open and how they were operating and going forward to sort of help. I think the residents of all the villages have been astounding in helping out the small businesses, particularly the residents going forward. I'm happy to say that I don't know of any business in Ardsley that has actually closed because of the pandemic. So while we still have a bunch of empty stores, they were empty before the pandemic, and they'll probably be empty long after the pandemic, you know, if we all get through this. So I don't think that's changed, and I'm happy for our business owners. We are working in Ardsley to finalize our comprehensive plan. This is something that has been a long time in making. We haven't had a comprehensive plan that really looks at our downtown area. We think of our downtown area almost in three separate parts. There's the central business district that we call, and that's really closer to Adams Square between Heatherdale and Ashford Avenue. But there's also the southern part of the business district and the northern part of the business district where we have businesses spread all over. So it makes it a little bit more difficult to have a cohesive kind of downtown community feel. I've been hoping with our comprehensive plan, we are putting into a whole marketing and branding program going forward to change people's attitudes about Ardsley in order to help bring businesses here. You know, we often hear there isn't enough parking, you know, so what can we do about that? How can we focus on that? How can we deal with that? You know, we don't have enough diverse businesses here. So we're hoping that our marketing people and our branding people will help us going forward to define who Ardsley is for the future. It's not going to change overnight, but it's certainly, if we start thinking about how we want to view ourselves and how people view us, you know, what we learned doing this comprehensive plan is that people have a very negative reaction to downtown Ardsley. They look at us as having 4 gas stations and hardly anything else in between, when we have, you know, really great restaurants. So how do we let people know about that? How do we let people find out about that? We have great physical therapy and gym businesses here. We have a good number of them that we need to learn to figure out how we can promote and how we can support going forward. We have medical facilities here that we need to capitalize on all of these businesses that we have right now and how to improve the visibility of our businesses going forward. We're going to make a lot of changes in our comprehensive plan. I hope that our marketing and our branding program will start to, you know, make the changes that we need. I changed the title of the comprehensive plan. They said Vision 2030, and I said I'm not going to be here in 2030, so we need to make that Vision 2021. So we need to be long-term vision, but we need to have short-term goals because our businesses need our support every single day going forward. And I will do everything I can to help our businesses. I'd love to, you know, have a business liaison. I'm hoping to, you know, institute that similar to Hastings. I always thought their downtown advocate was really a great idea. Certainly someone that has the connection to the village and the businesses is, I think, vitally important. So I'd like to see us do something along those lines. You know, we also did like Ardsley Day for many, many years, which was specifically to highlight our businesses. And as challenging as it was, because we don't have a Main Street and a Cedar Street like Dobbs Ferry, you know, it was along 9A, it still was a very successful event year in and year out. But that too, you know, you have to change it up a little bit and you have to highlight your other businesses in other ways. So obviously COVID has prevented us from doing any of those things, but you will be out of COVID one day. And I hope that we will, with our new comprehensive plan, really move the village forward and have a vision for, you know, our residents and our businesses. And, you know, small businesses are the backbone of our economy. We all know that. You're all small business owners. I've never been a small business owner. I've worked in a small law firm, but that's different, as you know. So I don't personally necessarily understand the challenges of a small business. I think intellectually I can understand what some of the challenges are, but the day-to-day, 24 hours a day working because it's yours, and you need to make the money, and you need to develop the business going forward because no one else is doing it for you, is admirable in more ways than I can even think about. It's very admirable. So I would like to say to all of the businesses, but particularly for the Ardsley businesses here at the meeting, I'm here to help. And if you guys have ideas and you want to come to me, please do. Let's, figure out how we could support each other because we need each other. So thank you again for having me. I really appreciate it.
Wonderful. Thank you, Nancy. Anyone have any questions for Nancy?
Can I ask how I can find that Greek imported food though? That's what I want to know.
Oh.
Just, where can I buy
I'll
that?
put it in the chat. Thank you, Mayor.
I need some stuffed grape leaves. Yes, in Armenian they call it yalanchi. What do they call it in Greeks?
Dolmades.
Dolmadas.
Dolmades, but I
Dolma.
don't have those, but you can go to Yaranush.
Oh, I know that store very
Yeah,
well.
that's a good place, or Titan in Astoria, but that's a schlep, so.
Nope, been there too.
You guys are making me
Oh,
hungry now.
quick question. I know you said that there's been no businesses that have closed, thankfully, in Ardsley, and that's really good news. But are there any that are struggling that we can do something extra to support them that we should just have on our radar?
Do I know anybody specifically? I think all the businesses are struggling at some point. I think, we got new COVID restrictions from Cuomo tonight. And that's going to put an impact back onto the restaurants. It's going to put an impact back onto our gyms. I think that the businesses are probably just making ends meet. So I don't know what the chamber has done in keeping their businesses up to date. Are you circulating the rules that are coming out of the state and what you can and cannot do as far as when you can open and not open? I mean, I remember one business emailed me and was asking me about, it was regarding inspections for opening up a gym or opening up a physical therapy, and what was the steps that had to be dealt with and how do we do those things? I think that if the chamber can reach out to its businesses and keep them abreast of what's changing. I mean, tonight, Cuomo said restaurants have to close at 10 o'clock, right? They're going to cut down on the number of people you can have inside. Gyms have to close at 10 o'clock. Come the cold weather, this is going to impact these businesses all over again in very detrimental ways. You can't have outdoor seating, and you can only, have a certain number indoors. Do I know any particular businesses struggling? I think they're all struggling. I think they're really all struggling. So whatever you can do, I think, as far as helping promote the businesses and give them the information that they need based on the restrictions or rules set out by the state is probably very helpful going forward.
So just a point, just want to say thanks to Sherry Rosen Asher because she daily sifts through all of the information that comes down the pipe between the state and and the county and sends it to us. And then now with Elizabeth being on board, we've been able to get out a lot of those publications.
Look, I just want to say, I think what the county executive and his team has done during this pandemic is astounding. I don't know if all of you know this, but he holds, and in the beginning, he held 3 days a week phone calls with every municipality to talk about what can we do to help? How can we help each other? How can we get equipment? How can we do this? How can we do that? We're down to 1 day a week, but I suspect that as things probably get worse, we might go back up to 1 day a week. And the collaborative effort and the information that is put out by the county, I don't think Sherry, I don't know about you, but I don't think the rest of them sleep. It is astounding. And I can't sing the praises of what the county has done enough, because they have really been a partner and thinking outside the box, thinking about our small businesses. I know that a couple of our businesses have applied for the small grant that the county helped put together. I know a couple of our restaurants have done. I made a couple of emails, trying to encourage that they get it. That our La Cucina the owner died early on in the pandemic, and it was very devastating for their business. So we tried to support them and tried to put the word out to help them, and try to give them the information about applying for loans and things like that. But all of this information really comes from the county and the county executive, and it's really been a great help. So, there's cheers to them. They've really been great.
Yeah, completely agree. And yeah, we share whatever information we can get, and we'll continue to do that, and hopefully do that more and more as we go forward, if as needed. Great. Any more questions for the mayor?
Just to piggyback on that, Sherry, I got an email yesterday or today from somebody that is a restaurant owner, but they are a franchise. So they were not eligible for certain money because of the franchise status, even though they are a local business. So I don't know if there's anything coming out, down the pipe from that. I mean, I'm looking at Joanne, and like her and I can do our type of business all day long over Zoom, so if we all have to go back indoors, it's fine for us. My biggest challenge is having the kids home, right, if the school's closed. But like a restaurant, like Michelle built an entire patio in Hastings out on the street. And the minute it gets cold or it snows, they're stuck. Who's gonna go inside a restaurant at that point? So is there anything coming down the pipe from the county that
so I guess that'll be my teed it up for me. And hopefully George is going to be joining us. But so we had this Business First grants. It was $10 million of CARES money that the county executive put aside specifically to help business owners and nonprofits. So it was for small businesses. You had to have 99 employees or less. There was a very comprehensive rubric that they used to decide who would get this and who could be eligible. We got about 2,600 applications for these grants, and they were going to be grants up to $49,000. And I think they awarded them to about 260. And it was throughout the whole county. They are awaiting. They just had a press conference on Monday to announce it, with a couple of the people who got it, one of them being Jazz Forum Arts in Tarrytown, which I was very happy about. But obviously, if you have 2,600 people apply and you give it to 260, it's like getting into an Ivy League school in terms of the percentage. So we are hoping that there'll be a second round. We did want to make it specifically for Westchester-based businesses, because there are, I believe, 39,000 small businesses in Westchester. So I don't know what they'll do about the franchise thing if there is a second round. I'm a devotee of Club Pilates, and I'm in Ardsley 4 days a week for that. I was there this morning. And I would love them to get any help that they need, but I don't know what the rules are that apply because she's a franchise owner. But I do know that what they did do with this last round of grants is they gave special consideration to minority and women-owned businesses. They did try to help out restaurants when they could, because of everything you just said. It's not just the stuff that Michelle's been talking about this whole time, about kind of how the tentacles of the restaurant go out very far and wide in terms of, the employees and the distributors and the supply chain and whatever. But it's also that it is getting colder. We don't live in California, so things are going to be very different a month from now or 2 months from now. I was on a chamber meeting this morning with Larchmont. And, Larchmont is very lucky that they have a nonprofit that was started by its citizens called One Larchmont to support the local businesses. So when you live in a community like Larchmont, it's possible that people are like, oh, I'll get $5,000 to support the local businesses. But they bought got them these igloos and these greenhouses so that the restaurants could, stay open longer. We are having these webinars with the Department of Tourism about how to with Google and had your Google listings and things like that. And that's very, very important, because what happened in the beginning of this is that a lot of the small businesses were not prepared in terms of their website presence, in terms of e-commerce, in terms of connecting with their consumers, their customers, and their clients in a digital way, in a socially distanced way, if you will. And we had a series of webinars to try to address those issues based on the survey we did in the beginning of this, to ask business owners, what is it that they're most afraid of? What is it that they need? And we kind of, all the programs and things that have come out of the Office of Economic Development have been directly related to the responses that we got from the business owners. So I do encourage everybody to keep in touch with me and let me know if there's something that you need or would like to see done. Obviously, we don't have a magic wand, and I would love to help everybody all the time, but that's just not, how it goes. But we do want to be responsive, but we can only be responsive if we know what it is we need to respond to. So we are hoping that there'll be a second round of the Business First. We also just started a Launch 1000 for entrepreneurs. If you're kind of in the idea phase of, let's say, this pandemic kind of threw you for a loop and you can't have the same kind of job that you had before, you can't do business the same way, the Launch 1000 will help you to get the help that you need. We're going to help launch 1,000 different businesses, 1,000 different entrepreneurs, and give them the resources that they need to take it from an idea to a real business. So that's also an exciting thing. I see my boss is on the line, so I'm going to let him take over and talk about COVID and the budget and all the fun stuff. Boss.
Hi guys, how are you?
Hi.
We just did a 1 hour on Veterans Day talking about veteran issues, but I don't know what Shari covered, but I'll be very quick just to cover two things: good news, bad news. The good news is we've submitted the 2021 county budget, and it has a tax cut in it, property tax cut, $1 million cut in our budget. I don't know how that's going to play out in practical terms. I do know that last year when we cut the tax levy by $1 million, it represented a cut in Greenberg for Greenberg property owners of 1 to 2%. Now that's not a lot of money, but it beats having an increase in property taxes. And I also recognize that the county tax bill is smaller than your school tax bill. So when you look at what your tax obligation is, it really is driven 2/3 of it by the school district. But what a Nancy Kaboulian can do in Ardsley, and what the town can do, and what the county can do, even if it's 1/3 of the budget, as we try to control our levels of taxation, we think that's, a positive thing. We don't have any dramatic cuts in services or things of that nature. The Board of Legislators, Mary Jane Shimsky, Alfreda Williams from the Rivertowns, and everybody else will be discussing it. They'll make some modifications, but we're happy that we could cut spending and cut taxes in this budget. Hopefully you'll have some benefit out of that. The bad news is the COVID numbers. They're not good, and they've been increasingly getting worse now since about September of this year. When I visited with you 2 months ago, the numbers were still pretty good throughout the whole summer. They were relatively flat, and even to the first few weeks of September. But what we're watching is not a Westchester thing, it's an everywhere thing. You're seeing it on the national news. And as we head to the winter, we're also racing to try to have a vaccine that's available nationally. That's out of my zone. It's above my, above my pay grade, as they say. But where we are now is an increase. We are not at the exponential explosion that we had in March and April. The amount of new cases that we had, the amount of infection, but we've seen a significant increase at this point. We have about 80 some odd people hospitalized right now. We were down as low as 25, 30 people. At our peak, we had 1,200 hospitalized, so we're nowhere near 1,200, but the trend line is going this way. And the governor is taking some steps. You've noticed in Port Chester, he has imposed these yellow and orange zones, which could apply anywhere in the area. I have heard nothing in the Rivertowns that approaches that number. So I don't think in your backyard you're facing that same kind of situation on an imminent basis where things would be closed down. He did issue some orders that I just read as I was on my way into the county office building. I saw Nancy and some others in Hartsdale this afternoon, and I stopped in here to get caught up on paperwork. So I have to review what those things are. And through Shari, if there are things that are specific, we'll share them by email so that the leadership of the chamber can get it, and then you can determine how to share with all the members. But pretty clearly right now we're in a bad place and it's going in the wrong direction. But we're going to try to do everything we can do with PPE, with sanitization, with the things for HVAC or plexiglass dividers to try to do whatever we can to reduce the infection. And as I said, I think right now in most of the river towns, those numbers are lower and slower than they are in other places. Generally, it's the area with higher populations and denser populations. So Portchester, Peekskill, Mount Vernon, Yonkers, New Rochelle, right now, the places that we're most concerned about. The smaller communities that have a little more single family housing, a little more spaced out living are not quite as under the same gun. But without going on and on, that's a New Yorker talking in New York fast language. The good news of the taxation, the bad news of COVID. And if there are questions that either Shari or I can answer, we're happy to do it. Obviously, Shari is, right there, hometown girl in Dobbs Ferry, and you have access to her all the time. She's terrific, by the way. I say that publicly. She'll hit me up for pay raise, I know, but she's really terrific. And I mean, the energy level, because we talked about having a liaison for chambers of commerce. My governmental career before I got this job was on the other side of the county in the Sound Shore. And I dealt with the chambers of commerce in that area, New Rochelle to Portchester. And I always felt that it was a missing link. And so when I asked Shari to come on board and she agreed to do it, she took that energy that she had at WFUV, and she's been everywhere. I've seen her 3 times today already, and just by Zoom. And so we want that link to be there for you whenever anything comes up. You got a problem, you got a question, she can help get the answer. And as you might imagine, I may be her boss, but don't kid yourself. When she comes in to talk to me about something, she's a tiger, and she's not taking no for an answer. So I guess that's the Brooklyn and the Dobbs Ferry in her. So I credit her publicly, and I thank you for letting me just share a few thoughts.
Thank you so much, County Executive Latimer. It's so great that you're here. And we agree, Shari's amazing. So we're happy that she's always here with us. And we're so happy that you're able to join these meetings and give us these updates too. It's really so much appreciated. So thanks for being here.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'll go on mute as you continue your conversation.
Okay, great. Shari, did you have anything else you want to add after what you were talking about before? Or do you want?
No, I think that one of the most important things that we've tried to do through this whole, last, whatever it is, 8 months, 9 months, it feels like 30 years, is to try to make sure that we're communicating effectively. This is not something that any of us have real experience with. It's not like, any of us came to this with like, oh, the last time I was in a pandemic, this is how so we're trying as many things as we can. And, you throw a lot of stuff at the wall and some stuff sticks and some doesn't, but we really rely on the communication to be two-way. So it's not just about me sending out emails every day. It's also about Michelle and Nick reaching out to me to ask me questions and to see what's going on. Personally, I do whatever I can. I ordered my Thanksgiving dinner for the first time. I'm not cooking because I ordered it from Lanizio because they had such a great deal. And I'm like, okay, I've been cooking for 9 months. I'll take a day off. But that was because they sent me an email and they said, oh, this is what we're doing for Thanksgiving. Had they not sent me that email, I wouldn't have known. So it's really important that the communication efforts of the business owners to the consumers is stepped up, and the business owners to me, to the county executive, to Bridget Gibbons. We're here to help. Like I said before, we don't have a magic wand, but we can certainly, if we know that there's something that's of a particular issue, and odds are, if it's an issue in Dobbs Ferry and Ardsley and Hastings, it's probably an issue in Mamaroneck and Larchmont and Rye. And there's also things that you could all learn from each other, from other chambers, from other business associations, and from other business owners. So I am happy to be a conduit to help those conversations continue. And I did work with a woman from the Harrison Chamber to set up a chamber Facebook page for people who are in the chambers in Westchester to share, information and have conversations. And that will only be as good as the people who use it. So there are things I can do in government, but there's also things you could do amongst yourselves if you talk amongst yourselves. So, I'm here. I put my information in there. I encourage everybody to sign up for the Westchester Catalyst newsletter because Bridget Gibbons sends out incredible information multiple times every week about loans and grants and webinars and programs, and everything in there may not be applicable to you, but something in there will be applicable to you or to someone that you know, maybe someone who's not even a chamber member. But what I've seen over these last 8 or 9 months is that the chamber's role has been so crucial in making sure that the businesses get the information that they need. And I hear from business owners every day who didn't know about things. Why? Because they don't belong to a chamber. And they didn't know that something was going on. They didn't know what the county was doing. They didn't know what the state guidelines were. They didn't know. So I'm happy to be the person that processes all the information and gathers it for you. So just let me know what you need.
Wonderful, thank you.
Just give everybody a real world example of how that is. On the task force call, about 3 or 4 days before the grant closing was on September 30th, there was only 900 applications. So Sherry's saying there was 2,600. She did a push, a big email push that we sent out. I'm sure every other chamber sent out. That's 1,700 more applications just from the power of communication. So that's definitely huge.
Yeah, and aside from Sherry being able to help any of the local businesses, anything that you want to share to get out, please send it to the chamber too. Send it to our info@rivertownschamber.com. Many of you already do, but because we're trying to do now more regular newsletters or send out blasts on as necessary, there'll be more opportunities to get that info out there. So again, please share, or we'll get on social media. I wanted to add on, Sherry mentioned before, there's the free webinars, that the Google My Business free webinars that the Westchester County Tourism Office is doing. One of them is tomorrow and one is next week. And I did paste the link to read about them and register for them in the chat box. I know I'll be there because that's some stuff I'm trying to learn more about for my businesses.
I'm sorry, can I ask a question? So what this is for Elizabeth, I guess, Nick and Sherry, what can we do to encourage businesses who are not part of the chamber to think about becoming part of the chamber and encourage them that, what the chamber can do for them? How are we reaching out to those businesses, not just the businesses that are already part of the chamber?
So on the last board meeting call that we had last month, we decided we were kind of just going to follow the Dr. Gupta pay-as-you-go model, where we'll take you on. If you can pay, great. If you can't, we'll figure it out down the road. But we just want to be able to help out any of the businesses out there that really just need the help. So,
okay, but how have you gotten that word out?
So we have a couple newsletters that are coming out that we've been structuring in the past couple days or so that are going to go out over the next couple weeks that will effectively convey a lot of that information.
And our mailing list right now isn't exclusively members. It's larger, a larger mailing list than that. We have also been, these chamber meetings are open to everyone. So along with our mailing list, when we put them on the web, on our social media and that sort of thing, and we specifically say that they're open to all. Before everything went virtual, when they were in person, their non-members would pay a little bit more to attend. But right now, since we're doing these all for free, it's anyone can attend, and we welcome that. But again, as Nick said, we'll be getting more outreach out there, and really putting a push, because we do want to help support the community.
And what about the local? What about the Enterprise and the Hudson Independent and the local newspapers to put an ad in to just say, are you a chamber member? What's stopping you? Because this is what we've done, or
Glad you asked that question.
Yeah, right?
You're going to see 2 or 3 articles come
30
out.
years in media,
in the next week or so.
The Enterprise was all over us this week. They're doing an article a new executive director role. So we were talking to them this week about that. I know Michelle also
We're
is
doing an article on the community table partnership because Michelle and I were talking to Chris Lorenzo quite a bit.
so the word is starting to get out there, and then we'll
Okay.
but yeah, the thought about an ad, maybe that is something we look into at some point, but
Okay.
hopefully with our sort of grassroots ways of getting out
Yeah,
there.
I would say that normally, as someone who came out of radio and is real fond of digital, usually newspapers isn't what you think of. However, there isn't a person in the Rivertowns who doesn't look at the enterprise, and I just think that that's something that cost effectively for the chamber can help you to reach people, and especially all those businesses that are advertising in those last pages.
Mhm.
I don't know how many of them are chamber members, but it's been the same. I've lived here for 23 years. Some of those people have been advertising every week in the enterprise for 23 years. So, that's how we found the guy that made our, hooked up our audio video system or whatever. It's from the enterprise. So,
No, this is great. Okay.
One of the biggest challenges that we've run into is, Michelle has done an amazing job over the past couple of years putting together different events, whether it's women's networking or, with the holiday trolleys and all that type of stuff, or the pride trolley. We've had all these fundraisers that allowed us to put on these other events. And without, obviously with COVID, without being able to do those type of things, we don't have that revenue stream. Also, we collected dues for the first 2 months of the year this year. And then once the pandemic hit, we just suspended everything. And, everything's been copacetic. But without the dues coming in and without that type of stuff, we don't have that revenue flow to really do as much advertising as we like. So like Elizabeth said, we're really trying to do it just a grassroots kind of movement where we're all getting on our soapboxes and getting out there and telling as many people as we can just by word of mouth. So.
But we're also working on some ideas for different types. While everything has to be virtual, we've got some ideas going for different types of virtual events, different things that we can do to bring the communities together. So stay tuned on some of those. We'll be figuring some of those out, and get us through the winter when we're stuck at home again. Maybe we can figure some fun activities to get the communities together. Great. So I have
even as far as getting PPE equipment, and I always tell people before March I didn't know what PPE stood for, but I think probably most of us didn't know that, but I'll take that I was maybe stupider than most. But even for our businesses, I mean, the county has put out a lot of PPE equipment and given it to businesses, but this is a huge expense for them. It's a huge expense for them going forward. So if there's ways that there could be collective or something that the chamber could do to help businesses get this equipment to them in more economical ways, that would be probably helpful for all businesses. I mean, they all have masks and cleaning stuff and this and that, and I was at Pilates this morning. I don't usually go at 7 a.m., but I was there this morning, and they have to wipe down everything, and every time somebody uses something, and that's probably a big expense given the fact that they're probably operating at 50%. So I just wonder whether the chamber could help, coordinate getting these sort of things to the different businesses going forward, because I think we're going to be needing them for a long time to come.
I
just wanna-
So we worked with the county with Sherry a couple months ago to distribute, so I can't speak, some PPE, and obviously with the summer and everyone being outdoors, that kind of died down. But I mean, we can definitely work, to kind of organize that. Sherry, I don't know if the county is doing anything again in a similar fashion, and just actually, while I think of it, while we have George and Ken on the phone.
Yes,
too.
we will be. We'll probably be doing something again. I got an email about that yesterday to stand by.
Is there anything that's going to be done for, say, business owners that have locations that aren't paying rent, right? So, for example, my shop's been dark for 6 months. The guy that owns my building has two or three different buildings, and he has most people that are paying, but he has some people that aren't paying. So, is there something, I know with I don't know if it's the end of this week or next week, that they're lifting the ban on not being able to evict people. Are they going to be able to extend that, or is there going to be some kind of subsidy for folks that need help paying their rent? Are they going to allow folks to renegotiate with their landlords? I don't know if it's going to be a county level, if it's going to be a state level, or what, but.
Well, just in general, we've tried to be creative with the COVID CARES Act money that we had for this calendar year. It was allocated for us to use through 2020, and that's where we created a couple of different programs to try to help those who were, facing eviction. The challenge going forward, now that we're sitting here almost halfway through the month of November, is what kind of resources would we get for the new year in 2021? And of course, when we talk about COVID likely continuing to spike up the line, depending on whatever the politics of Washington is going to be, which are unknowable at this point, we would hope that there would be additional stimulus, and then they would allow us to do programs like that. The county does not have its resources sufficient to do those kinds of things. But if given the money and then the program regs to allow us to do that, then we would certainly sit down and try to determine how we would handle it for, in essence, commercial tenants as well as residential tenants, because we see the need and we want to stabilize a business, whatever that type of business is. But at this stage of the game, Nicholas, there's no way for us to know until we know whether or not we have some additional resources from the feds that could significantly, help us address those issues.
And Nick, just to add on to what the county executive was saying, the moratorium right now is till January 1st, 2021 for all residential and commercial properties. So I'm not sure what you were referring to, that there was something happening in the next couple of weeks, but that's not a scenario that's, at least on the governor's website, that executive order is in place till January 1st.
Someone had just mentioned it to me, and they were nervous about it, so I figured I would ask. But I can't see them saying, hey, no one has to pay their rent for 120 days, and all of a sudden expect to have to recoup that, even as the landlord. That's a business as well. And how are these folks going to get made whole as well? So obviously there's going to be a lot of things coming down the pipe depending on what the new administration does in Washington, but it should get interesting.
Well, we'll monitor it for you. And again, working through Sherry, who's, the ongoing presence. As soon as we have some knowledge of what's possible, we'll let you know. But I think we've shown already that if given resources, we'll use some of our resources, but if given resources, we will use it creatively to try to deal with whatever those problems might be. The Business First grant program, the small money we have from our own IDA, which we use for PPE purposes, the eviction prevention program, even the food insecurity program. Those were all creative uses we use for the money. And so we'll try to be mindful of this as it goes forward. But none of us know at this stage of the game, and we'll just have to stay tuned.
And the county executive did put in for the COVID being created with the COVID dollars, to your point, Nick, especially on the landlords. The part of the eviction prevention program goes through the landlords. And there is that combination of conversation so that you don't have 8 months or 6 months or whatever amount of dollars that someone might have in arrears that are going to come due on whatever date things start going forward again. So the county executive definitely put those things into place. I think the number was $10 million altogether for the rental eviction proceeding. And again, it's for landlords as a component of that. So we are as Shari mentioned, we've been trying, and the county executive mentioned, we've been trying to be extremely creative in trying to deal with every facet of impact in COVID. It's individuals, it's businesses, it's the entire economic development picture. So
that's
I'm going to have to say,
I appreciate that.
I'm going to have to say goodnight now. I got a 7:30 Zoom elsewhere, but obviously with Ken on the line and Sherry as a permanent player, we're happy to interact with you guys. So stay safe. And if I don't see you, however this turns out, have a happy Thanksgiving.
Appreciate it.
Thanks
You
so
too.
much.
Thank you very much.
Have a
Take
good
care.
night. Thanks. All right, if I know we're getting close to 7:30, I have a couple of other small, like, local community announcements that have been shared that that I want to share, and then we can open it up. There was actually Sherry had shared with us recently some news about the Pecantigo Center, which is the Rockefeller family estate in Tarrytown, their space that they use for conferences and meetings. And they are looking for people or organizations who might be interested in partnering with the Pecantigo Center to address the needs of the diverse communities in Westchester County and beyond. And they have a survey. So I'm going to share this in the chat if anyone is interested in reading a little bit more about that and maybe completing that survey. I'll also include this in our next email newsletter as well. So sorry, I forgot to write that was for the Pecantigo Center. And then there's a couple of items that were some from Dobbs Ferry requests. There is a loading zone proposal survey that's going on that would impact some of the parking and spaces in the town of Dobbs. And it's the Board of Trustees is considering a proposal to install loading zones on Main Street, 2 zones, and 2 zones on Cedar Street. So if anyone is interested in participating in that survey, they're asking for feedback or input from the community in Dobbs about the idea of those loading zones that they'll be reviewing in one of they'll be voting on in the next couple of weeks at the Dobbs board. So there's that. And another request that came in from Dobbs is about related to tree lighting this year, and the fact that the tree lighting that's happening this year in Dobbs on December 5th is actually going to be streamed live because we can't have crowds. I'm assuming that will still go on no matter what's going. So there's going to be a live streaming version of it, but they're looking for some ideas from the downtown businesses in Dobbs for how to still make it still feel like a festive occasion, even though we can't have crowds of people out there. Maybe like decorating windows with lights or lighting up the whole street at the same time. So they're really kind of looking for some ideas. And if anyone wants to share ideas, I will also paste into the chat. Alyssa Fassman, the assistant to the Dobbs Village Administrator, is the point person on that. And they're looking for some, just looking for how to make things festive but stay COVID safe. So again, I'll put this in our email newsletter, but wanted to put it out there. And then what else? Those are the things I have on my list. Everyone, thanks for reminding me, Patty. Everyone, you can put your information in the chat about who you are and what business news you want to share, and we'll have that, and we'll share it with everyone who receives this after as well. But anyone else have other community items they want to share? Michelle, did you have any updates you wanted to give?
Yeah, I'll give an update about the meal program, and just kind of as like a segue to that, I want to reiterate, as a chamber, before you, Elizabeth, we're all business people or business owners who have volunteered our time to do everything that we're doing. Nick mentioned all the events that I've done. It's probably been thousands of hours that I've kind of just volunteered to pull these events together, which were fundraisers. And now we don't have that source of revenue anymore. So I'm excited to have Elizabeth, but just, to keep in mind that everything the chamber is going to be able to do is going to have to be very strategic. Not having business owners who are already kind of taxed and trying to pivot, and then not having the revenue for the chamber to really kind of do a lot of the things that it used to do. That being said, one of the things that has been very helpful, and I'm grateful that we had an opportunity as a chamber to participate in, is the community table partnership grant, which is paying restaurants to send meals to individuals in need. And the way that we're doing it in the Rivertowns, we applied to represent Ardsley, Hastings, Dobbs Ferry, and Irvington. And we have restaurants from all of those villages who are producing both meals that go to certain food partners, as well as vouchers, which essentially work like a gift certificate, where individuals call and order takeout and they're able to pay for it with these vouchers. So that got underway in the Rivertowns about mid-October. We have a few weeks in of the meals to the Dobbs Ferry Food Pantry. We just did our first round of vouchers and are tracking redemption on those. It concludes December 15th, so we have just a few more weeks left of the meals. And we are doing a fundraiser trying to, we're saying match it, match the grant, but, obviously whatever, we're able to fundraise will be helpful to continue the meals into the winter, not just for the businesses, but, when you think about things slowing down in the winter, it means more people losing their jobs, and need is going to increase also, whether or not there's a spike in cases. So it's been really great to be able to have this grant and have this be something that the county has given us a resource for the chamber to kind of engage and rally the businesses and help everybody out in the communities. So it was very creative, and we rely on Sherry to pass us all this information and kind of speak on our behalf. So thank you, and yeah, let's keep doing it till we get through this.
And just so everybody knows, the restaurants that are doing it are barely making any money. If anything, they are doing this out of the goodness of their heart.
So yeah, I mean, so to that effect, when you figure how much of so we have 8 restaurants participating, and we were awarded $80,000, 8% of which is administrative. So when you do the math on what a restaurant would have done in revenue pre-COVID, it's less than 1% of what their yearly revenue would have been. But the name of the game for restaurants right now is keeping up with the expenses. It's cash flow. It's a cash in, cash out business from week to week. It's like living paycheck to paycheck in the restaurant industry in normal times. So the helpfulness of this program is that it's cash coming in. It's they can, if they're doing a week to the Dobbs Ferry Food Pantry, that's over $3,000. Maybe they can catch up on rent with that. It's also allowing them to occasionally bring in employees for more hours that might need the time. So, while and I don't think it's meant to be kind of the solve all, but it's a piece of that, and it's a program that contributes to, supporting businesses in the overall picture. So while it is a small piece, it's necessary, and something we should definitely.
And I just want to add to that too, that I think that another important part of that program is to create the partnership between the restaurants, the nonprofit, and county government too, and knowing that everybody's working together to the same end. Because I do think that, we've got very positive feedback from a lot of the nonprofits across the county who are part of this program, who didn't really have relationships with the restaurants before. So I know Corolla Bracco at Neighbors Link is now going to want to continue this program with the restaurants kind of on their own. They're seeking funding at Neighbors Link to try to keep this going, because it's been such a positive relationship. And so I think that that's, and once again, we tried this, and we're going to see, and we'll see when we kind of do the audit afterwards, what worked and what didn't, and what we would want to try to do. But it isn't something that's been done before, and it just goes back to the county executive trying to be creative. And in terms of fundraising and doing things for the chamber, there are a lot of chambers out there that are trying to come up with ways to continue doing the events they did, but not in the same way that they did. And I would say that Larchmont and Rye in particular, if you wanted to reach out to a couple of chambers, they are very, very event oriented, and had to kind of shift gears into what it was going to look like in COVID 2020. So, Elizabeth, if you want to reach out to them, I'll give you names and numbers. You could also reach out through that Facebook page, but those two in particular come to mind because the events aspect and the fundraising aspect have come up. There have been chambers across the county that have just decided, 2020 is dues free, and this is what we're doing, but they are looking for ways to engage people and then keep them engaged, but they also don't want to lose that connection to the community, because obviously part of why you do events is fundraising, but part of why you do events is for community engagement and community engagement with the businesses. So I would say those are the two that I would suggest you reach out to.
Okay, that's great. I definitely will. And I have to find that Facebook page you're talking about. I don't,
Okay, I'll send it to you.
okay.
I'll invite you. Okay.
All right, thank you. Wonderful. Anyone else have anything to add?
Can we run the trolley just for the sheer joy of it, going through the village, even if it doesn't pick anybody up?
To watch the trolley drive around. It's like the ghost.
Oh, I love the trolley.
I actually got an email from that company asking if we were going.
I wrote both of them, the Pride trolley, the holiday trolley. I was on that trolley for hours.
Only if you bring it through Ardsley this year.
Oh.
Just getting over that Ashford Avenue Bridge, you know.
Oh,
Trolleys.
no, don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. I'll go out there and direct traffic.
This was supposed to be the year, Nancy. This was going to be the year.
Oh. All right. That's great. I think, yeah, I'll definitely pick their brains and see what they're doing so we can try to do some things. We'll figure some good stuff out. All right, great. Anyone else? Anything else? No? All right. Well, I'll be sending a recap out with the replay of this meeting if you or anyone you know is interested in it with the chat, and our next newsletter will be out any time now with some of these updates and more. But again, keep sending over anything you want to share, or if you're interested in helping out in any way. And don't forget the board nominations. And get involved, or suggest someone get involved.
So I just want to say that following up on the county's good communication, we just got an email from Ellen Hendricks showing the new governor's executive order that bars and restaurants that have a liquor license must close by 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. daily. Delivery and curbside pickup food only is permissible after 10 p.m. Gyms must close at 10 p.m. Residential gatherings, both indoor and out, cannot exceed 10 people. So these are new directives. So that's going to impact all of our restaurants and all of our gyms in all of our communities. And I hope we have a vaccine soon. Thank you again for having me.
Great. Thank you so much for being here, Mayor.
Thanks,
really
Nancy.
appreciate it. Thanks for being part of our new mayor's circuit.
I'll
Actually,
see you
no.
in Pilates.
If you have a max of 10 people, that means more Thanksgiving meals have to be made. So technically that could help out the restaurants.
If the restaurants want to make our things.
Yeah.
They want to make more meals,
Great
right?
restaurant deals, I'm telling you.
Happy to advocate.
You got to find the silver lining in all of it.
Yeah, for sure. All right, and nobody else wants to share anything or catch up, and then we can call it a night, and you can enjoy the rest of your evening, and stay tuned for our December meeting, which maybe we'll find some way to make it into a little holiday celebration, even if that just means bringing your own drinks. Sherry had the right idea. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Stay safe. Happy Thanksgiving.
You too. Thank you.
Elizabeth.
Yes.
Yeah, I wanted to just run something by you. Can you hang back for 2 seconds?
Of course. I'm going to stop the recording though too.
Yeah.
My battery's got to die. I got to cut out of here.